Okay, another RPGRules tutorial, this time on power sets. So we're going to put together an ice control power set, a themed one. I've got this character 0K that I've made based on a minor background character from one of my comics. So let's create a power set. And we're going to call it Ice Blasts, with a space in there. And if we have a look at Kay's character, I've just cloned her from Female Basic. Instead of filling in the powers array like we were doing before, we're just going to drop this power set in there. There it is. She's got the Ice Blasts power set now, and we're going to put some powers into that. So we'll make it cold coloured. Need an icon for it. I'm going to use projectile. I think projectile X is a nice looking one, sort of fizzing like it's cold. And damage type will typically be cold damage, and we want to have a status effect that's the signature for this one. So what we're going to do is create a buff, status buff, and we're going to call it chill. Chilled, let's call it. And chilled is going to do some cool things. It's going to be cold. We'll give it the mez icon because it's going to be a sort of mez type thing. And what we'll do, we'll give it 3 effects. It slows down enemies, gives them -50 speed. It roots enemies as well. There's a root, but only to 50. Now with the mez stats like that, they have to reach 100 for the effect to kick in. And it's also going to hold them, but only with a hold strength of 25, so you actually need to hit someone 4 times for the hold to take place, to freeze them solid. Damage type will be cold. I don't think we actually need that, but it just seems nice. And we'll get the glow blue effect so we can see that people are chilled. So we've got an icon. We've got this scheme now for slowing enemies down but then rooting them but then holding them. That's kind of cool, and we're going to make that the signature status of the power set. Now this isn't actually used in game, this signature status and damage type, but it's used by the cloning system. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a bolt, and we'll call this freezing bolt. Clone it, and there it is. And you see it's now doing cold damage there, cold tinted, and applies the status effect chilled for 5 seconds. I'll make that 10 because I want a chance to build up 4 stacks of it on an enemy. And then we drag that into the power sets. So the power set have been given them all 8 powers. And we can put freezing bolt as a starting power there. So we'll say I've put in start powers of 8. We'll assume that we're going to have all the powers just for testing for the moment. And each power has got a level unlock, grid position and prereqs. We don't need to go into them at the moment. Let's set the level unlocks while we're in here. So the powers unlock at level 2, level 6 and 10 and so on. We'll make all the powers mutant based, why not? And let's have a go with K now with this new power. See how it feels. Okay, there's the robot. 1. Yep, okay, so it's not looking awesome. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give her the punch right animation, and we'll add some effects that I made earlier. So it starts the ice gather effect on her hand, then we get the halo which makes a noise, then on the target we'll get ice burst, yep, and the projectile we will make ice projectile effects. There we go. So let's give that a try. Not that we're really concerned about making it look absolutely awesome right now. Boom, boom. 4. Right, now I think he's well and truly held at this point. We can't really tell because he doesn't fight back. Let's just go and do it to the gun robot. Hey dude, start shooting me up. 2, 3, 4, 5, and he's now held. Excellent. Right, so that's a good start there. While we're at it, we'll make a burst. Call it freezing burst. Which is a more powerful spike damage projectile on a cooldown. Still in the right folder. Clone burst. And we can see here that that gets the chilled buff, cold damage and so on. We'll put the same effects on it quickly. Ice gather effects. The big burst. Yeah, we'll leave the big burst effect on our hand there to differentiate it. Instead of the energy bullet, we'll give it the ice projectile again. And we are going to take away the cooldown from it. What I want to do is make it a charge up power, this one. With an extra 1 second, takes an extra 25 energy on top of the, we'll make that 10 base and an extra 20 maybe. And it'll do just 8 damage if you tap it, but 20 damage if you charge it up fully. Yep, I think that's everything there. And then we just pop it into the power set. So rather than just having another blast straight away, let's maybe put it into the 4th slot here. Freezing burst there. Now let's make a couple of new things that are kind of cool before we just go and test that. So wouldn't it be great to lay down a patch on the ground? Let's make a freezing patch, and we'll clone that. And what does that give us? Right, that's given us a new thing, a power summon, where we create an object. The object it's creating is a freezing patch. This little game object here, which has nothing on it, it's a prop with a freezing patch aura passive power. So this is the interesting bit, the freezing patch aura. So we'll give it a ice patch effects that I've put there. It's got a 5 meter radius, and instead of doing the chill debuff, what I actually wanted to do is do knockdown 20%. So basically every second, anyone who's standing in this patch has a 20% chance to get knocked over because they're falling over on the slippery ice. Right, so let's go to the ice blast there. Freezing patch, we'll put that in second as the second power. Yep, there we go. And we can see ice blast is starting to build up now as a power set. So we've got a freezing patch there that should work, and we will go and make a cone as well. Cone, so I'll call this freezing breath for the next power. Clone the cone, freezing breath. Now the cone is a power area. We talked about power areas before with the explosive projectiles, and I showed you a rainbow guy making a radial attack to anyone around him. What we'll do now, we'll get the hang on, we want the hit effects to be this one will make dust. So we're doing an area attack here with a much wider radius but limited in range. So it's basically a cone, it only attacks people in the front. We'll use the breath effect. So the dust effect appears on her route. Then you get the breath effect from her head, and we'll just make it twinkle on anyone who gets hit by it. So it's going to do 5 to 10 damage, apply the chilled buff. And in the area settings here for that cone we've got a 12 meter radius, but only 90 degrees angle, so it's just a frontal attack. And we've got the power cone icon for it automatically. On a site, maybe make it not routing. Maybe make it a maintain as well. Give it a 3-second duration. Costs an extra 30 energy, make the base cost 10. So we can sort of walk around and blow ice over everyone, and we'll make that chilled apply on every tick, I think. Right, so that's ice blasts. We'll put freezing breath in there, and I think it's time to test these new powers out. Okay. Right. Ice burst. Charge up. Fire away. Yep, not making any noise, but that's not bad. Freezing breath. It's coming out at an angle. I think that's baked into her animation. So, into the animation we're using rather. So freezing breath, we will give it the area animation. Keeps the head straight on. And there's the ice patch still to test. I'll go and make a group of robots to fight. There they are. Let's lay an ice patch down on this one. So you can see the ice patch there on the floor. I'm using a projector for that. Not quite bold enough really. But it's sort of doing the trick, and they're all flopping around on it. And then ice breath them all, that's more like it. Ooh, wow, look at ice freezing those rocks. That's an unexpected delight. Yeah, so we've got ice, we've got an area attack, a spike damage single target attack, a little bit of control and utility, and we've got this sort of interesting mechanic of freezing people solid, but only with repeated applications so far. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we could actually see when we were freezing someone? You know, currently they glow blue. It'd be great if when they actually got held we could see them trapped in a block of ice. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to split this buff in two. So we'll make a copy of it and call this other one Super Chilled. Now chilled, we're going to remove the hold from it. So it's just doing the speed and the root thing. Super chilled, we're going to remove everything but the hold. Have the VFX requires mez, so the hold has to take place for the visual effects to kick in. And we will use this ice prison effects I've made, which encases them in a block of ice and freezes the animation. So, go back to the game and see how that works. Oh, hang on, what have I forgotten to do? I've forgotten to go to all the powers and put Super Chilled on them as well. So, as well as doing Chilled, they'll have to apply Super Chilled. Freezing Burst, you are no exception. You have to apply Super Chilled, and Freezing Breath also has to apply Super Chilled. Excellent. So now we should be able to see when we freeze a target, when they can no longer fight, when they're being held. Let's do it to the test. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, will you look at that? That's nice. 1, 2, and as the 5 layer, 5, 4, 3, and then that fades away when he's no longer fully held, and the ice is back. Cool. Alright, so it would be good to have a little bit more protection. Let's make ice armor. Most ice superheroes tend to do that. So we'll take the self toggle, make a power called Freezing Armor, and clone it. And that has made a freezing armor buff as well, hasn't it? I'll rename that to frozen armor. Okay, and what's that going to do? Actually, let's get rid of that because I want to show you something new. So we could make it a buff that increases our resistance, but what we'll do is we'll make a damage shield. RPGRules status damage shield called frozen armor. American spelling there, international spelling. And we'll drop this frozen armor damage buff, our damage shield into there. So we'll give that the cold icon, cold colored damage shield icon. FX, we have an ice shell effects, little experimental shader one again. And a damage shield, we'll say it has 30 health, regenerates 5 health a second. It's like an extra layer of hit points on top of the character that takes damage before them. Only affects corporal attacks, so not magic and psionic. And we will tick start at 0 for this one. So let's pop that. Let's pop that into here before we get freezing burst. So we get freezing armor, then we get freezing burst. Just don't want to give away all the offensive powers straight away. Actually, let's put freezing burst there, and let's leave this one none for now. Okay, so show you how damage shields work with freezing armor. That's number 4, freezing armor. There we go. We've got this kind of icy shell effect. And boom, you can see I've got this sort of dark bar over my health bar. That robot's doing damage to me. Let's get them both firing at me. But I'm recovering 5 hit points a frame. If I turn it off, it disappears. Turn it back on again and you see it starts at 0. It has to ramp up slowly. I think the regeneration might be a bit much there, 5 per second. At least for 2 test robots fighting me. So we need a bit of a disadvantage to that, freezing armor. Let's make it very expensive to run. 5 energy per second is going to floor my energy recovery. I know that. So if we go freezing armor, you can't hurt me, and then start blasting, you see my health bar never goes back up again. Doom, doom. Got enough for a burst. Boom, and then yeah, everything turns off and the armor goes away. The armor's maybe taking a little bit too long to fade away, but whatever. Yeah, so that's a self-toggle with a damage shield there. Little stand is in good stead, but it's going to be an energy drain, and this is going to be part of the theme for this power set. So we will now give ourselves a little homemade power called RPGRules status. We'll make an absorption. Just a little sort of flavor power almost, called cold absorption. And what it does, it'll have the cold absorption icon. And it will absorb only cold damage. 100% chance of success, no cooldown on it. And it will give us one effect, which will be energy boost large. What does energy boost large do again? It gives us back 80 health whenever we get hit by a cold attack. So that's not going to be that often, but it'll be really nice when it happens. When something hits us with a cold attack, we absorb all the energy and go back to full energy almost. Now, in order to put that in the power set, what we can do is we can go up here, Tools, RPG, Make Power Set Passive. Well, we've got that selected. And it makes a power set passive a new thing called Cold Absorption. We'll call this, call the power Absorb Cold. cold absorb cold bond James Bond, and that can go in the power set as a passive power. We will pop that in before freezing burst. There we go. So when we play that now, passive powers, I don't think we've talked about them so far. We automatically get absorb cold. We can go and test that quickly with these liquid nitrogen tanks over here. That's a way of taking cold damage. Yep, not sure if we did or not there. Anyway, now absorption won't actually mitigate any damage by itself. So what I'll do as well, I'll quickly create a little buff, status buff, called cold proof, which will give an icon to it so people can see that it's there. Block, power block icon, just a shield, and it will have one modifier doing resistance of extra 500% just to cold. So we hardly take any damage from cold at all. And we can put that in the same passive there. We can just drop cold proof in there. So that, drop cold proof in there. There. So that when you take this passive power, you're immune to cold damage and you absorb energy from it. Yeah. Right, how are we doing now? Ice blasts, we've got 6 powers. Let's make another energy recovery power. So we've got a template in here called consume. When this is an area attack, a wide range one, receives energy from all nearby enemies with the power set status on them. So basically anyone who's chilled nearby gives us a bit of energy. So I'm going to call this consume cold here. And we'll clone that. What does that give us? We get consume cold, power area with some effects. That has one effect, calls the consume cold conversion, and does so just calls it for every target in fact. The consume cold conversion is a new thing again. This is a conversion status effect. A conversion is a really versatile one that allows you to turn any status effect into any other status effect possibly consuming it. So what this one does, it takes chilled from the target, that's everyone in a 10 meter radius who we hit. It doesn't consume it, it leaves it on them, and applies consume cold energy return small to the caster. So everyone who's chilled nearby, we get a small energy boost, and that consume cold is a little energy drain returning 10 energy. I'm actually going to delete that and replace this with just energy drain small, because we don't need a special one for that. Energy boost small, I think it's called. Yeah, one of my standard ones. And that gives us minus 10 energy drained, therefore plus 10 energy total. So if we go back to 0k, we've got consume the attack, which is going to go into our Ice Blast's power. There we are. That's calling this conversion so that everyone who's nearby who's chilled gives us some energy back. Now, what else do we have in this area effect that's of note? The beam settings. It creates a generic beam setting feed beam, so there'll actually be a little beam that comes from everyone nearby. In order to make sure that we're only getting that beam from chilled people, it's created this condition here. A status condition, which is true if the target has the chilled buff. I'm going to rename that from the horrible name it's got to just is chilled. There we go. So the area attack only attacks targets who are chilled. so that it can convert that chilled into energy for us. And the reason why we put that target condition in there is so the beams only come from the targets. This target condition, caster condition stuff, we'll go into that later. Basically you can set up powers to do things that only work on certain enemies, only work when you're in certain states and so on, like an aura that only does damage to undead, or, you know, your power will electrify people but only if they're standing in water. Things like that. A very versatile system. Let's think our first contact with it there. Right. Now we're going to touch on conditions again for our final thing. So consuming cold. Let's just test that out actually. So if we go and chill this guy up and then consume cold, yeah, you can see the beam coming from there, and it's on a 10-second cooldown. Get away from him. Do it again. Oh yeah, he's feeding us energy with this nice wobbly beam, but not a hell of a lot of energy really. So if we go and create a group of test dummies down here, get them falling all over the place. One best way to chill them all up is to breathe cold on them, and then getting chill from a lot of them. That one's fallen over. Got frozen mid falling over. Yep, it's still not working awesomely. You know, it's hard to keep everyone chilled. So what we'll do is the piece de resistance. We will, for this set, we're going to make an aura that chills everyone within a 10-meter radius nearby, but it only works when we have the freezing armor on. The freezing armor is the main energy drain we have, and it'd be great if that freezing armor was actually projecting enough cold to chill people nearby. So here goes. We're going to create a aura freestyle in here instead of using the template system, which we'll call, we've got freezing aura already, we're going to call this one chilling aura. Oops. Chilling aura. It won't have any visual effects because it's going to be permanent. It's not something we turn on. We're going to have a passive unlock that makes it happen when we have our freezing armor on. It's going to apply chilled to everyone with a radius of 10. We'll give it the cold aura. Yep, don't want any visual effects on it, that's it. And we do want to cast a condition. So if we look at our freezing armor, that gives us the where's the effect? Frozen armor. So we'll create a condition, status condition, has frozen armor, and the status we are looking for is the damage shield we made, the frozen armor one. So the chilling aura only ticks in when we have our frozen armor on. That has frozen armor condition. It's like an if statement on it for programmers out there. And we now want to make a passive of that. Tools, RPG, rules, make powerset passive. Instead of chilling aura passive, we'll call it chilled aura. There. And that goes in the final slot, chilled aura. So, yep, the chilled aura power passive, we'll put the chilling aura on, which only kicks in when we have frozen armor. Let's see if that all works. So the idea here is every power set should have its own little mini game, kind of. Here I'm trying to manage my energy and keep everyone chilled around me so that I can periodically drain their energy. So when I turn the freezing armor on now, you can see I've got a chilling aura. Oh, I think it's gone and chilled me. I think I know what's happened. Chilling aura, has been set to allies by default. That's the default for auras. Auras are like ally buffs. So we'll turn this one off, the allies thing, so it applies to enemies instead. Okay, oops. Got to make some enemies to fight. Haven't given myself ice slide yet or anything. Got to take the long way up. Right. And here we go. Don't need to breathe fire all over everyone, breathe ice all over everyone rather, because these guys are already chilled, so when I draw energy, vroom, we get an energy from everyone. It's a bit of a bad effect there. That was on the consume conversion. Oh yeah. Yep. So that red effect we get in there will make that cold coloured and come from their chests. Yep. Oh god, I forgot to press the fight button first. One, two, three. Turn on the armour, the really expensive armour, and oh dear, it's draining my energy fighting all these people. Let's hold one of them at least, and then we can just and fill our energy bar from all the chilled people nearby. That's great. Yeah, so that's how to make a power set. Just to recap, in our character, we've set up just a power set here, ice blasts to this object. We can see it in the character window there, both on the character and below. We drag powers in there, which unlock at various levels in which you have to buy power points for. And yeah, we can set up powers like we were doing before. We can have power set passives, which give us passive abilities when we unlock that power. They, by the way, get stored in the character's character component. We have passive powers there. And yeah, the template system helps us out by colouring powers and putting the status effect for the power on automatically for the power set, like chilled. And finally, I can show you we can now train up in this power set. We've got the Ice Blast set there, and you can see all the different powers, and we can, you know, unlock powers, slot them and so on, with a number of different training methods. Like I've got a sort of slotted powers, a bit like City of Heroes here. We've got other ones available with all the UI prefabs and so on. So yeah, that's power sets.